The sun was bleeding out across the Arizona desert when Aiden Morales got the call. He had just finished coiling the last extension cord in the back of his truck. The sky behind the dry hills painted in oranges and rust. The wind was still warm, but the heat of the day had finally begun to release its grip. His phone buzzed in the pocket of his work jeans. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer. Almost. Hello? Aiden. It's Vanessa. His grip tightened on the phone. It had been nearly a year since they last spoke. Not since the funeral. Not since Damien, his cousin. Practically a brother had been found at the bottom of the stairs with a shattered skull. Official ruling, accidental fall. Unofficial feeling, bullshit. What do you want? He asked flatly. I wouldn't call if it weren't important, she said. Her voice was just as smooth as he remembered sweet, rehearsed, always just shy of genuine. I'm going out of town, conference in Sedona. Just 3 days. I hate asking, but I don't trust the neighbor kid anymore. Could you drop by the house, feed Bruno, check the mail, that kind of thing? Number. Aiden, you haven't let me see Luca since Damien died. You disappeared. No texts, no updates. And now you want me to feed your dog? There was a pause. Luca's at a school retreat this weekend, she said. And I didn't know how to reach you. Same number, same town, same truck. I'm asking for a favor, please. Just Bruno's food and water, nothing else. Aiden hesitated. Every cell in his body screamed don't. But Bruno was a good dog, old, loyal. And Luca, you sure Luca's not home? Positive. I'll go tomorrow morning, he said. One visit. Thank you, she said. And the line clicked dead before he could change his mind. Dry Creek was the kind of town where nothing stayed secret for long. But somehow, Damien's death had vanished from public conversation faster than Aiden expected. People whispered, sure. The fall from the attic stairs. The sudden payout Vanessa received from Damien's life insurance. But no one ever looked too close. Not in Dry Creek. The next morning, Aiden drove out past the feed store and the old mission, past the hills where he and Damien used to camp as kids. The Monroe house sat on a slight rise overlooking the Southern Valley, fancy but sterile, like a model home. 2 stories, stucco walls, dark wooden shutters. Too perfect. He parked by the curb, grabbing the spare key Vanessa said was under the flower pot. It was right where she said. Of course it was. Inside, the house was quiet. Too quiet. The air conditioning was set unnaturally cold, and the place smelled like lavender disinfectant. Photos lined the hallway, mostly of Vanessa, in designer outfits. Damien with tight smiles. Luca in crisp school uniforms. None of them looked natural. Bruno? Aiden called. The old Labrador trotted in from the den, tail wagging. Aiden knelt and rubbed his ears. Still hanging in there, huh, buddy? He followed the dog to the kitchen, filled the food and water bowls. Aiden scanned the fridge out of habby-tempty except for some overpriced juice and a container of probiotic yogurt. Weird. Luca was a cereal and hot dogs kind of kid. That's when he heard it. Thud. Then, scraping. The sound came from below. Aiden turned toward the hallway leading to the garage and basement. Bruno growled low in his throat. Shh, Aiden said. It's probably just the AC. Another scrape. Louder this time. He followed it to the basement door. Locked. But Vanessa had given him the full set of keys. He tried 3 before the last one clicked. The door creaked open, revealing a dark staircase and a smell like mildew and old rust. He descended slowly, the temperature rising with each step. The basement was unfinished. Concrete floors, water heater in the corner, metal shelves with labeled Bins Vanessa's obsessive organization in full view. Then he saw it. Behind a row of plastic storage bins was a wall panel, unpainted, slightly ajar. He pulled it open and there it was. A steel door, unmarked, industrial, with a reinforced bolt. The sound came again, this time unmistakable. A groan. He pounded on the door. Hello? No response. He tried the bolt. Locked. But the keys in his hand clinked. One more try. On the 4th attempt, the lock released with a metallic snap. The door opened. The smell hit him first. Sour sweat, urine, damp towels. The room was small, barely wider than a closet. No windows. One flickering bulb overhead. On the ground, tangled in a thin blanket, was a boy. Luca. Pale. Bones pressing through his shirt. Lips cracked. Eyes sunken. A crusted cut along his cheekbone. His wrists were red and raw. Luca. Aiden dropped to his knees. Hey. Hey, kid. Wake up. Luca's head rolled slightly. A whisper. Uncle Aiden. Yeah, I'm here. I'm gonna get you out. Hold on. Beside the boy was a half-empty bottle of water, a broken spoon, and a small orange pill bottle. Aiden picked it up. His name was on the label. Aiden Morales, diazepam, prescribed 3 weeks ago, except he'd never seen it before. And he didn't take medication. His stomach dropped. She wasn't just hiding her son. She was setting him up. Aiden yanked out his phone and dialed. 911. What's your emergency? This is Aiden Morales. I'm at 312 Paloma Ridge, Dry Creek. I've found a minor unconscious, emaciated, locked in a basement room. I need an ambulance. Now. Is the child breathing? Barely. And I think he's been drugged. Help is on the way. Please stay on the line. But Aiden was already checking Luca's pulse, lifting his head and whispering, "Don't worry, kid. You're safe. I've got you." As the sirens echoed in the distance, Aiden didn't think about the questions that would come, or the suspicion that would soon fall on him. He thought only of one thing. Why would a mother do this? And how far would she go to cover her tracks? The flashing lights washed the driveway in red and blue. Paramedics moved swiftly through the front door with a stretcher, and 2 sheriff's deputies followed, boots thudding against hardwood as they descended into the basement. Aiden stood off to the side, arms raised slightly, heart hammering like a war drum. Luca lay unconscious but breathing, his pulse faint and steady now that oxygen flowed through the mask strapped to his face. The paramedics worked fast checking vitals, prepping an IV, wrapping his wrists gently with sterile gauze. The older medic looked up. "You found him like this?" "Yes, locked in that back room." "You have keys?" "She left them for me. The boy's mother, Vanessa Monroe. She told me to feed her dog while she was away." The medic didn't comment, just gave him a long look, then nodded to his partner to begin transport. As they wheeled Luca up the stairs, a sharp voice behind Aiden cut through the hum of adrenaline. "Sir, I'm going to need you to step outside." Aiden turned to face Deputy Marcus Finn, 30-something, broad-shouldered, with a clipped southern accent and a face trained for suspicion. Aiden lifted his hands higher. "Not going anywhere." Outside, the desert wind had turned dry and sharp. Aiden sat on the back of his tailgate while Finn scribbled in a small notebook. "What's your relation to the kid again?" Finn asked. "He's my cousin's son. I'm not blood, but we were close. I helped raise him." "Where's the mother?" "Out of town, supposedly." "You live around here?" "Yes, on the east side. Work 2 blocks from the firehouse. Check the records." Finn looked up. "We will." The second deputy, a lean guy named Ruiz, came out holding a small orange pill bottle in a plastic bag. "Found this in the room. Name says Aiden Morales." "Same guy?" Aiden blinked. "Yes, that's me, but I've never seen that bottle in my life." "You're saying someone forged it?" Finn asked. "I'm saying she planted it. That woman's been setting me up since Damien died." Ruiz raised an eyebrow. "Your cousin who fell down the stairs?" "Yeah, that's what she told everyone. But I always knew it wasn't an accident." "You're suggesting Vanessa Monroe tried to kill her husband, and now her son?" "I'm not suggesting," Aiden said sharply. "I'm telling you." Finn sighed and snapped the notebook shut. "I'm not saying I don't believe you, Mr. Morales. But this looks bad. Real bad. You've got access. You've got motive if there's some inheritance angle. And now your name's on a bottle of controlled meds. Then investigate." Aiden growled. "Check hospital records. Check pharmacy logs. And talk to Luca when he wakes up. He'll tell you who did this." "We will," Finn said. "But until then, you're not going anywhere." At the hospital, Luca was stabilized but remained unconscious. Dehydration, sedative overdose, and malnutrition were the immediate concerns. The doctor said he may have been locked up for days. No cameras in the house. No neighbors had seen him enter or leave. And Vanessa? Her phone went straight to voicemail. By the next morning, Aiden sat alone in a sterile interview room at the Dry Creek Sheriff's Office. 1 table, 2 chairs, a camera blinking in the corner. The air smelled like copier toner and cold coffee. Detective Serena Caldwell entered holding a thick file and a hard stare. Mid-40s, wiry build, and a reputation for being fair but relentless. She sat across from him without a word, flipped open the folder, and laid out the facts. Vanessa Monroe filed a travel notice for Sedona 3 days ago. A prescription for diazepam was filled at a local pharmacy 2 weeks earlier under Aiden's name. The pharmacist confirmed a female picked it up, said she was his assistant. Luca's school reported that he'd missed the last 4 days. His absence was excused by a parental note emailed from Vanessa's account. Every detail crafted, every dot connected. Except Aiden wasn't the one holding the pen. "Do you know what this looks like?" Caldwell asked calmly. I do. But it's not true. You have a past in emergency response fire rescue, some military training, and you're telling me you had nothing to do with this? I risked my job and my freedom to call 911, Aiden replied. Why would I go through the trouble of saving a kid I supposedly hurt? Because you panicked. Because I found the truth, he countered. And she knew exactly how to make it look like I didn't. Caldwell stared at him, unreadable. I need to speak with the boy, Aiden said quietly. Just once. Just enough to hear it from him. Out of the question. Why? Because you're the lead suspect. Meanwhile, Vanessa's face began appearing on local news. A photo from a charity gala. Pearls. Soft smile. Her voice in a pre-recorded interview about raising a child with discipline and structure. Then came the statement read by her attorney from a podium in Phoenix. Miss Monroe is devastated by recent events. She is shocked to learn that her son was found in distress. She left him in the care of someone she believed she could trust, her late husband's cousin. She has no idea how things went so wrong. Aiden watched it all unfold on the station's wall-mounted television. She was rewriting the narrative. Already. And he was the villain in her version. By the third day, something shifted. Deputy Finn returned to the holding room with a sheet of paper and an arched eyebrow. Kid woke up, he said. Aiden stood so fast the chair scraped against the floor. What did he say? Asked for juice. After that, Finn's face softened just slightly. Said he was locked in the room by his mom. Said she told him not to scream, or the bad man would come back. And who's the bad man? You, Finn said. That's who she told him it would be. But he said he knew it was a lie. Aiden exhaled, every nerve in his body relaxing for the first time in 72 hours. She said if he stayed quiet, she'd take him to Disneyland when she got back, Finn added. He didn't believe her. Not this time. Later that night, as Aiden was released on conditional clearance, he stood in the hospital hallway outside Luca's room. Through the glass, the boy was curled up in bed, an IV in his arm, and a stuffed bear beside him. The room glowed faintly with the light of cartoons on mute. Luca looked up and met Aiden's eyes. He smiled, weakly. But it was a smile. And Aiden knew right then, no matter how long it took, no matter how many lies Vanessa had laid down like landmines, she would burn through every one of them. Dry Creek was a town of silence and dust. But across the state line in New Mexico, someone had once made noise about Vanessa Monroe and been ignored. Aiden had driven 6 hours without stopping. The sun was high over the Chihuahuan Desert when he pulled into Santa Rosa and parked outside the weather-worn building that housed Child Protective Services for Guadalupe County. Inside, a receptionist with thick glasses and a bag of trail mix pointed him toward a back office with the name Leah Tran, CPS field investigator, on leave. He hesitated for a second, then knocked. A muffled voice answered. If it's about the Rivera case, it's on my desk. It's not, Aiden replied. It's about Vanessa Monroe. Silence. Then the door opened. Leah Tran stood just over 5 feet, Vietnamese American, maybe mid-30s. Short black hair tied back in a clip. Her expression was skeptical, sharp, but not unkind. She wore jeans, hiking boots, and a gray cardigan rolled up at the sleeves. A woman built for fieldwork, not policy. I haven't heard that name in almost 2 years, she said. You better come in. Her office was lined with stacks of paper, a dusty ficus tree, and 2 mugs both filled with pens. She motioned for him to sit, then closed the blinds behind her. You're the first person who's ever walked in here and said her name out loud, she said. Aiden sat. You investigated Hare? Briefly, until I got transferred and my report was shelved. She crossed her arms. What happened? Aiden took a breath. I found her son locked in a windowless room in her basement, sedated, starved, and next to him was a prescription bottle with my name forged on it. Leah stared for a moment, then shook her head slowly. She's doing it again. What do you mean again? I had a case in Alamogordo. Little girl, foster placement, one of Vanessa's older stepchildren from a previous marriage. The girl told me Vanessa used to lock her in a pantry for hours, feed her through a dog door, told her she was dirty and broken. When I raised it up the chain, the mother said I was overreaching. Then she moved. The case went cold. No charges? Not enough evidence, Leah said bitterly. She was always 3 steps ahead. She knew the system, played polite, cried at just the right time, gave just enough. Aiden nodded grimly. She's the same here. Leah sat back. Why now? Why come to me? Because no one else is looking deeper, and you already saw her for what she is. Leah studied him for a long moment. Then she opened a drawer and pulled out a file. "You're lucky," she said. "I keep records even when I'm told not to." They sat for an hour. Inside the file were photos of a girl named Jasmine, thin, bruises hidden under long sleeves, notes from child interviews where she described being put in the quiet box, a timeline of Vanessa's movements over 6 years, 5 cities, 3 husbands, and 2 child custody transfers, printouts of financial statements, most with sudden cash, influxes after the deaths of partners or settlements from accidents. She was always around vulnerable men, Leah said. Divorcees, widowers, men with complicated pasts. She'd charm them, isolate the kids, then gain full control. Then something bad would happen. Leah nodded, and always made to look like someone else's fault. Aiden rubbed his jaw. "You think she's done this before?" "I don't think," Leah said. "I know, I just couldn't prove it." He stood. "Well, now we both can." Later that night, they sat in a diner near Route 54, surrounded by the clink of forks and smell of fried onions. Aiden had his laptop open, uploading photos from Leah's files to a secure folder Maya had set up. Leah scrolled through her phone, then paused. "I found something." She turned the screen to Aiden. An obituary from 2 years ago. Name: Julian Mark Strauss. Age: 42. Cause of death: fall from second-story balcony in Austin, Texas. Survived by ex-wife Vanessa Monroe and daughter Jasmine Strauss. "What's the date?" Aiden asked. "February 2021. "And when did Damien die?" "March 2022. She was moving fast." Aiden's mind reeled. Has anyone ever looked at the pattern? No one who wasn't shut down. Then let's not shut up this time. By the time Aiden returned to Dry Creek, the sun had dropped behind the mesas, and his phone buzzed with a message from Maya. Status update. Vanessa just posted a video. "My heart is broken for Luca. I pray for his healing. I had no idea he was in danger. Comments are turned off. She's playing the victim." He texted back. "We're done playing defense." Then he opened the folder labeled Strauss Case and printed everything Leah had given him. Tomorrow, he'd go to Detective Caldwell. This time, not just with accusations, but with a pattern. And maybe, just maybe, that would be enough to finally burn through Vanessa's mask. Detective Serena Caldwell didn't speak for nearly a full minute. She sat across from Aiden in the small meeting room of the Dry Creek Sheriff's Office, fingers steepled beneath her chin as she scanned the documents Leah Tran had given him. Her brow furrowed deeper with each page. Behind her, the whiteboard that once displayed only Luca's name now had 3 others. Julian Strauss, TX. Evan Lawrence, NM. Damien Monroe, ASEA. 3 names, 3 men, 3 tragic accidents. And 1 woman in the middle of all of them. Vanessa. Finally, Caldwell leaned back. "You know what you've handed me here?" she asked. "Something you can act on," Aiden replied. "Something that'll have lawyers lined up around the block if we don't get it right." Aiden didn't flinch. "So get it right." She narrowed her eyes. "You believe she planned Damien's death?" "I think she manipulated him. I think he found out about her past and tried to stop it. And I think she made it look like an accident again." "And the boy?" "He was locked up to remove the only witness left." Caldwell tapped the table. "I'll admit, it's a compelling pattern. Same MO across state lines. The victims all had assets, all had children, and she came out clean every time. She's not clean anymore." The detective flipped open another file. Leah Tran's disciplinary notice. "Your friend in New Mexico, Shea, was reprimanded for harassment because she tried to push a case nobody wanted." Caldwell looked at him. "I believe you," she said quietly. "But belief and admissible evidence are 2 different things. Then, let's get the evidence." By noon, Caldwell had authorized a joint case file with the Texas Bureau of Investigation and New Mexico CPS oversight. She called in a digital forensic team to pull deleted emails and cloud drives from Damien's old devices, including a barely functioning iPad Luca used for school. What they found cracked the case open. 1 video, roughly 4 minutes long, dated 2 weeks before Damien's death. Recorded in secret, Damien's voice whispering into the front camera. "If anything happens to me, don't trust her. Vanessa. She's done this before. I've found insurance policies I didn't sign. Accounts I didn't open. She's been slipping something into Luca's food. I know it. But every time I question her, she smiles and acts like I'm crazy. I'm scared. And if I go missing, or fall, or have a breakdown, it wasn't me. Look at her. Look hard." Caldwell turned to Aiden. "This is it." The next step was the media. It was Leah's idea. You can't let her own the narrative, she said. You need to speak before she does. And you need to speak with receipts. They filmed the video at sunrise, on the ridge behind Damien's old property. Aiden stood in a worn jacket, wind catching the edge of his shirt as he looked into the camera. He kept it simple. I'm not here for attention. I'm here for Luca, for Damien, and for the other people who never got justice. He outlined the pattern Vanessa's marriages, the accidents, the money trails. Then he shared Damien's video. Unedited, raw, undeniable. I don't want to believe she's capable of this, he said. But evidence doesn't lie. People do. The video was posted at 8:05 a.m. By noon, it had over 150,000 views. By 2 p.m., news trucks started pulling into Dry Creek. Vanessa responded the next day. Her attorney, now visibly flustered, held a brief press conference in Phoenix. My client maintains her innocence. The video released online is deeply manipulated and lacks verified metadata. Miss Monroe is being attacked in a coordinated smear campaign designed to defame her and win custody of her son. But it was too late. The tide had turned. Even Vanessa's own sister, Melissa, gave an anonymous statement to law enforcement confirming that Vanessa had taken out life insurance policies in other men's names without telling them. She said it was a backup plan, Melissa said, but it always felt wrong. The warrant for Vanessa's arrest came 2 days later. She was apprehended at a rest stop near Kingman, attempting to drive west alone, with $40,000 in cash, a wig, and a fake passport listing her name as Veronica Stiles. Inside the trunk was a burner phone with message threads titled Plan B, Storage, Luca Exit, TX Funds, Cayman. Every thread was damning. Aiden stood outside Luca's hospital room that evening, the file folder clutched in his hands. Sarah Kim, the CPS specialist now overseeing Luca's care, smiled at him gently. You did it. We did it, Aiden said. You, Caldwell, Leah. Luca's paperwork is being reviewed by the court, but if you're still willing, I am. She nodded. Good. He deserves better. Aiden stepped into the room. Luca looked up from his tray of mashed potatoes and blinked. Is she gone? Aiden crouched beside him. Yeah, kid. She's gone. Luca stared for a long moment. Can I stay with you? Yeah, Aiden said, gripping his hand. As long as you want. The courtroom in Dry Creek wasn't made for attention. It was a modest, wood-paneled space tucked behind the county records office, only 3 rows of benches, a dusty state flag in the corner, and an aging ceiling fan that clicked like a metronome. But today, every seat was filled. Locals, reporters, CPS officials. Even a few of Damien's old co-workers sat in silent rows, wearing clipped ties and drawn faces. No one spoke. They were all waiting for what would come next. Aiden stood near the front, in a borrowed blazer, his palms sweating beneath the sleeves. To his left sat Sarah Kim, CPS liaison, and beside her, Leah Tran, who had flown back that morning from New Mexico just to be present. Across the aisle was the table left reserved for Vanessa's legal representation. Empty. Vanessa herself? Still in holding. Her bail had been denied the previous week after evidence of escape planning came to light. She would not be attending the hearing. Still, the weight of her presence hung over the room like a storm cloud. The judge entered promptly at 9. Honorable Marta Delgado, sharp-eyed, silver-haired, with a calm but unwavering tone, took her seat without preamble. This hearing concerns the custodial rights and future guardianship of minor Luca Monroe, she said. I understand this case involves extraordinary circumstances. She adjusted her glasses. I've reviewed the evidence. I've read sworn statements, and I've seen the footage. Her eyes landed on Aiden. You're Aiden Morales. Yes, Your Honor. You've filed for sole custody of the child, citing parental neglect, attempted endangerment, and lack of viable alternatives. Are you prepared to assume full legal and financial responsibility for Luca Monroe? I am. Do you understand what that means, Mr. Morales? I do. I'm not just here because of blood. I'm here because he has no one else, and because I love him. A quiet shift moved through the benches behind him. The judge nodded, turning to Sarah Kim. Does Child Protective Services support the petition? We do, Your Honor, based on interviews, psychological evaluations, and the child's own stated wishes. Are there any objections from the biological parent or her legal counsel? One of the clerks stood and read a brief letter into record from Vanessa's public defender. Miss Monroe, due to her current legal status, does not object to temporary custody being granted to Mr. Morales pending further developments. No fight, no final plea, just silence. The judge glanced back at Aiden. Where will the child live? My family's cabin just outside town. It's safe, isolated, but close enough for school. I've already enrolled him in the district. And employment? I've arranged part-time electrical work. I've also applied for a state guardianship stipend, and I'm pursuing certification as a child care advocate. Sarah added quietly. He's also working with a trauma counselor. Both of them are. Judge Delgado looked down at her notes, then up again. I presided over your cousin's death inquest last year, Mr. Morales. I remember the name. She paused, voice softer now. I wish someone had looked closer back then. The ruling took less than 10 minutes. Permanent guardianship granted. Custodial transfer effective immediately. Case to be reviewed again in 18 months for stability evaluation. Outside, the morning had warmed into spring. Aiden stepped down the courthouse steps to find Luca waiting at the bottom, still thin, still pale, but stronger than he'd looked in weeks. They locked eyes. Aiden gave a small nod. She said yes, he said. Luca blinked. So, I can stay? You're home, buddy. Without a word, Luca threw his arms around him. The cameras flashed from across the parking lot, but Aiden barely noticed. He crouched, hugging the boy tight. I'm gonna mess up sometimes, he murmured. I'm not perfect, but I'll never lock a door between us. Ever. Luca didn't answer with words. He just held on tighter. Later that evening, they sat on the front porch of the old family cabin Nico, the golden retriever, lying across their feet. Aiden sipped coffee from a chipped mug. Luca drank orange soda, legs curled beneath him on the worn swing bench. The valley spread out before them, wide and golden in the light. So what happens now? Luca asked. We breathe. We rest. Then we build. You think she'll try to come back? Aiden's jaw tensed. Not for a long time. And even if she does, she won't get far this time. Luca was quiet a moment. Do you think she ever loved me? Aiden didn't rush the answer. I think she loved the idea of being loved, but not the way you deserve. That's not on you. Luca nodded slowly. I miss Dad. Me too. A long pause. Then, can I fix up the treehouse out back? Aiden smiled. Only if I can help. Deal. Inside, the cabin flickered with firelight and the smell of fresh sheets. Aiden had converted the second bedroom, replaced the locks on the doors, and ordered Luca a new desk set with shelves for books, puzzles, and the photo of him and Damien fishing at Willow Creek. No alarms, no hidden rooms, no secrets. Just space to heal. To begin again. The sun rose behind the hills like a slow promise. It filtered through the thin curtains of the cabin's kitchen window, casting long shadows across the scarred wood floors and coffee-stained countertop. Outside, birdsong echoed through the cottonwoods, and the smell of mesquite drifted in on the wind. Aiden Morales stood barefoot at the stove, scrambling eggs while Nico sat nearby, tail thumping every few seconds against the floor. His phone buzzed quietly on the counter. Another interview request. National news this time. He silenced it without reading. He'd said what needed saying. The rest belonged to the world now. From down the hall, the quiet creak of a door opening. Luca padded out, wearing one of Aiden's oversized sweatshirts and a pair of thick socks. Mornin', Aiden said. Luca nodded sleepily. Is it Friday? Yep, I have art class today. That's right. And pancakes? Aiden grinned. Coming up. They ate on the porch, legs dangling off the edge, syrup pooling on their plates. The treehouse loomed just beyond the garden, still crooked, still missing a shutter, but now reinforced with new boards, hand-painted signs, and a string of solar lights that flickered at night. They'd rebuilt it together. Every screw, every brushstroke. Not perfect, but theirs. Later that afternoon, Aiden stood beside the mailbox, flipping through a small stack of envelopes. Among the bills and grocery flyers was a cream-colored envelope, addressed in loopy handwriting. Luca Monroe. C. O. Aiden Morales. Dry Creek, Arizona. There was no return address. He handed it to Luca as they walked back toward the house. Inside was a folded letter, neatly typed, with a single line in Vanessa's voice. I'm sorry I wasn't the mother you needed. I know you won't forgive me now. Maybe never. But I hope one day you'll understand. Luca read it once quietly, then handed it back. Aiden took it, but didn't ask what he thought. Some things didn't need answers. Weeks passed. Life didn't magically heal, but it moved. Luca began therapy twice a week with a counselor who didn't ask him to speak unless he wanted to. He painted again, first in dark colors, then slowly adding orange and green. He liked building things, small forts from cardboard, shelves from scrap wood. Aiden bought him a soldering kit, and the boy stayed up late, building a tiny working lamp for his room. At school, Luca kept to himself, but he smiled more. He joined the chess club. He came home every day at 3:15, walked up the hill from the bus stop, and always took 2 seconds to pause at the gate, as if reminding himself, "This is real. This is mine." And it was. One night, months later, Aiden stood at the edge of the treehouse deck, staring out across the darkening ridge. The air was cool, the valley quiet. He heard footsteps on the ladder. "Hey," Luca said, pulling himself up. "Hey, kiddo." They sat together in silence for a while. Then Luca asked, "Do you ever miss her?" Aiden exhaled. "I miss who she pretended to be. The version of her we thought we knew. I miss Dad more." "I do too." Luca looked down at his hands. "I think I'm starting to forget his voice." Aiden put a hand on his shoulder. "I remember it. You can borrow my memory whenever you want." The boy smiled. "Deal." Before bed that night, Luca left a new painting on the kitchen table. It was a landscape. The dry creek ridge. A small cabin tucked between the trees. A boy and a man sitting beside it, watching the sun rise. And a dog at their feet. Aiden looked at it for a long time, then taped it to the fridge. Next to the custody decree. Next to a picture of Damien. Next to a hand-drawn sign that said, "No locked doors." Not every day was easy. Some mornings came with nightmares. Some nights, Luca refused to sleep in his room and curled up beside Nico on the couch. Sometimes he asked questions Aiden didn't know how to answer, but they faced it together. A family, built from broken things, choosing to stay, choosing to heal, choosing to live.